So you have dreams and aspirations to complete the 520 card T206 set. I have the same ambition and dream, building the monster. But let's be real, if you do not pick up these two cards this year, you may never complete the monster. But first, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris. You can find me on Instagram and X as @CRT_sportscards. This as well is the best place for T206 here on YouTube. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. Watch this video and then hit that subscribe button. But if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. But let's get into it. Which two cards must you buy right now if you want to complete the monster? I'd be remiss here though to not signify or note the significance of today, April 13th, 2025. This also as well corresponds with the journey that you are taking or you're going to undertake to build this 520 card T206 set. April 13th, 2020 is the day I released my very first YouTube video called Furloughed, episode number 1. Now, yes, I do have earlier content on my channel, but I'm pretty certain this day, 5 years ago, was the very first time I put my face on YouTube. Hey everybody, it's Chris from TRT Sportscards with a little bit of a different video series and one I'll probably be doing every single day, and it's going to be called Furloughed. And so this is my first day of being furloughed from my job. The goal was never to have anyone watch the episodes. The whole goal was to be able to give me the ability to look back in time at what I look like, what I sounded like, and just in general, how did I handle the significant time around COVID. But also, when you think about the T206 set, these were my early days of collecting the set. And there is a podcast that was released in 2019 and 2020 that put me on and really turned me on to the set because I'd picked up my first T206 cards at the National in 2019. That is the Monster Podcast. Justin and Jay, two guys who know an incredible amount of knowledge, had a great 9 or 10 part series that I recommend you go listen to today. But in one of those episodes, they talked about the cost. What would it cost then to build the T206 set? When you go back to the episode, and look, I'm going to give you the answer right now of what they said, doesn't mean you need to skip over these episodes. This series is also why I have on my arm Monroe Dolly Stark. The podcast for me is significant in my collecting journey around T206. But at that time, they said the goal around the T206 set, not the goal, but if you wanted to build the entire set, it was going to cost you right around $25,000. Now, I want you to remember that figure, $25,000, because what has happened since that episode was recorded, right? COVID happened, the surge happened in the hobby, everything is kind of gone haywire in a way. I really think you could make the argument right now, today, putting the set together would cost you upwards of over $50,000. I know my cost to build my polar bear set, which I did in the heyday of the overall burst or the bubble in the hobby, cost me way more than it would cost me to build today, probably right around $20,000 to $25,000. I shudder to think about what I paid for some of my polar bear cards, but that's not really the point of this video. The point of this video is to tell you and remind you, if you don't buy these two cards today, you may never, ever build the set. So to give context, to show the growth of these cards over the past 5 years, I've picked out 4 cards. 2 are our main targets today. The other 2 is a very, very common Hall of Famer, and the other one is just a random base common. So the cards we're going to be using are from the common player Harry Davis. Hall of Famer, we're going with Ty Cobb Red Portrait. And the two targets here, you probably know by now, Ray Demmitt and Bill O'Hara. Now, from a pricing perspective, and what I used for pricing here were their polar bear variations for Ty Cobb and Harry Davis. If you don't know by now, Ray Demmitt and Bill O'Hara's St. Louis variations are only found with a polar bear back. You know about the big four. You know about Wagner. You know about Plank. You know about Doyle and the McGee error. But Demmitt and O'Hara are the gold standard, in my opinion, of the T206 set. Yes, you can go buy a Ty Cobb green portrait with a very rare back and make this card very, very expensive. But when you're building the 520, ideally, you're looking for the cheapest copy to fill that binder page to complete the 520. But as you run this play, and look, we're going to look at the pricing over the past 5 years, and then we're going to extrapolate what that data says for what the next 5 years may hold for these cards. It's going to make you rethink which cards you're going to buy next for your T206 set. One of the things I have said since I built the 250 card T206 Polar Bear back run was if I did this over again, I would buy the Hall of Famers first. Now, Demmitt and O'Hara are not Hall of Famers. They're the albatross of Polar Bear and, of course, of T206. But I'm going to show you the data behind why that is the case. And I wanted to use a random common player to show the growth of that card versus the growth of these other cards to show you why you need to put down that everyday card in your set and pick up these big name cards now, because the last thing you want to do is get to the very end and realize all the money you've spent on your set, it's going to be doubled if I wait to buy Demmitt and O'Hara. So first here with Harry Davis, taking a look at his sales and his graded population, we have at this moment between PSA and SGC 171 graded copies. Now I highlighted specifically the 1 grades in these cards. In PSA, there are 13 ones, and in SGC, there are 11. So roughly 14% of the population is a 1 grade. Look at the pricing over the past 5 years. In 2020, 1 copy sold for $35. 2021, $60. And in 2023, $50. Now, there's not been a recorded PSA 1 sale since 2023 on Harry Davis, but you can see there, pricing is relatively flat over those past 3 years and nothing over the next couple of years. Now, as we take a look at Ty Cobb's Red Portrait, there's some more interesting data in this one. So from a graded population number, you have at this moment 567 graded copies between PSA and SGC. In a 1 grade, 62 at PSA and 49 at SGC. Give or take, 20% of the population is of a 1 grade. Now, when you take a look at the pricing here, in 2020, the average Ty Cobb sold for $1.6K and there were 4 sales. 2023, 2.4 over 10, and then in 2024 over 8, 2.6. In total, there have been 28 sales of that Ty Cobb, nothing recorded yet in 2025, but you can see there has been growth, but there hasn't been an exponential growth to where you're like, I need to buy a Ty Cobb now. Yes, it is imperative to buy Hall of Famers first because they do show growth and they're the safer buy long term. But now let's look at Demmitt and O'Hara. Now with Ray here, which in my opinion is the better looking of the 2 cards, you have 382 graded copies at both PSA and SGC. From a 1 grade, 41 and 42, relatively the same, right about 22%, give or take a number here. Look at those prices though. 2020, this card could have been had for 1.7K. 2023, 3.6K, over 4 sales again, and then in 2025, right now, 2 sales at $4,000. So that Ray Demmitt has doubled since 2020 in the past 5 years. Far more than the Ty Cobb red portrait has. Now, let's look at Bill O'Hara, kind of the uglier of the two St. Louis variations in the T206 set. This one, though, only has, right now, graded 350 copies versus Demmitt at 382, but relatively the same. Graded population of a 1, 39 at PSA, and 37 at SGC. Here again, 22% graded population at that 1 grade. But look at that pricing difference. In 2020, these two cards were relatively the same, 1.8K versus 1.7. But look at 2023 here, 5.9K. Now, there were some outlier sales in that year, but the average is 5.9. In 2025, though, we are at 5.4. So right now, even though those two cards are 5 and 6 when it comes to the list of the biggest cards in the set, you're starting to see that divide. Now, why is that? They're both only found with polar bear, but why would they have a price difference when they're relatively the same availability out there? In my opinion, when I step back and think about a collector 115 years ago, remember, these were done as a marketing trick to sell cigarette or to sell polar bear tobacco in the St. Louis area back in 1910. The main difference is Demmitt has STL on the uniform and O'Hara doesn't. So if I'm a St. Louis collector and I want that sort of scarcity card or that cool niche card, I'm going with Demmitt versus O'Hara. So maybe if you were to have a time machine, maybe more O'Haras ended up on the barroom floor or in the trash can because it didn't say St. Louis here. But now, what am I getting at? Where am I going with these sales figures? Because yes, anyone can look up these numbers and go, yep, O'Hara and Demmitt are more expensive than a Ty Cobb red portrait. Let's use this data and look forward 5 years, because I can't wait to watch this video in 5 years to see if I was right or how wrong I am around these predictions on these 4 particular cards. But we're going to use the data to know how we got from 2020 to 2025 to then where is that number at in 2030. So when you look at Harry Davis specifically here, which is a card that's gone from 35 to 60 to 50, very minimal sales, using the same multiplier to get from 35 to 50, that card is trending right now at $70. $70 in 2030 is not that big of a jump, and that's why I say put down those everyday players of the set. If it's 50 today and 70 in 5 years, it doesn't really matter. Looking at the Ty Cobb red portrait, though, getting from the mid 1,000 range to where we are in 2025, when you use that same multiplier, you're jumping Ty Cobb now to over 4.2 thousand as an average price, potentially in 2030. Still expensive. 2.6K right now is a lot better than 4,000 in 2030, but you do see that growth, you see that gain, because look, it's Ty Cobb. It's one of the most iconic cards in the set. It's also readily available in various backs, but still, there is safe growth. And if I'm buying cards today, I'm putting my money in Ty Cobb versus Harry Davis, because $20 over 5 years, it's minimal. It's like a penny at the end of the day. But now, the two big cards, Demmitt and O'Hara. Where do we see these cards in 5 years? To get from 1.7 in 2020 as a 1 grade to 4,000 in 2025, if you use that same exponential growth, this card now targets in 2030 to be over $9,000, 9.4K to be exact. Looking at O'Hara now, which is already $1,000 more expensive as a 1 grade than Demmitt, you're looking at 1.8 to 5.4. Using the same number here, that card now becomes a nearly $15,000 card in 2030. So remember when I said at the beginning, you could have built this set entirety, all 520 cards, 5-6 years ago for right about $25,000. If we wait 5 more years to purchase Ray Demmitt and Bill O'Hara, those 2 cards alone potentially could cost you $25,000. Versus right now, this year, probably right around $10,000. I would much rather spend $10,000 today than $25,000 in the future. So when you look at your set right now, if you have dreams of putting together the 520, do you have the big boys? If you do not, and if you do not pick them up today, you may never, ever finish the 520.